We're live, Wanda.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Albany County Legislature's Audit and Finance Committee meeting for April 28th, 2022. It is 6:35, and we want to say it's been a very brisk day. It's very bright outside, but it has not been the warmest. So we're going to open the meeting now, and I'm going to ask Majority Counsel Rebecca Kennedy to please take attendance.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham,
Present.
Peter,
Present.
Bergdorf,
Present.
Clay,
Present.
Grimm,
Here.
Joyce,
Present.
Lakakis,
Here.
Mayo,
Here.
and Brewski.
Present.
All present, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right. It appears as if we have, how many items do we have, Ms. Kennedy?
9 items.
We have 9 items. The first thing I am going to do is ask that we're going to move number 6 to the end, and we're going to take number 9 and move it to the second order of business after we approve the previous meeting minutes, okay? All right, thank you very much. All right, let's begin.
Item 1 is approving the previous meeting minutes.
Motion.
Got a motion, Mr. Okay, great. I got a motion from Mr. Peter, and I have a second from Mr. Brewski. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Right.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Item 9 is amending the 2022 Department of Social Services budget for administrative adjustments.
Who's our presenter for tonight?
Commissioner McClave is here.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Chairwoman and committee. Thank you. Thank you for having me and for moving the item up. I appreciate it. We're requesting an increase of $1,275 to line item 601022110013 because it's for a case supervisor B position, and all the candidates, and it's a vacant position right now, all the candidates for that position are 10th year or higher employees, so they would have to get the salary would have to be at the 10th year, and the person who left was not at the 10th year. So that's the problem here. So we're looking to offset that position by a reduction of $1,275 to 60105225-003, which is an eligibility examiner 1 position.
Did you say that number 1, this is a vacant position?
Correct. It's the person who was in it left.
And are you looking to, did you say reduce or to increase?
We're looking to increase the line to the 10th year level salary because all the candidates are current employees at the 10th year or higher.
And you're looking to fill the position, I guess, in the near future?
Yes, we've done interviews and we're ready to fill.
So you're just trying to get ahead of the game, I understand. Do we have any other questions from the members?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Peter?
if there are no other questions from members of the committee, I would like to make a motion to move this.
A second.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much, Ms. McClay.
Thank you. Good night.
Item 2 is local law number L for 2021, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, ensuring universal access to counsel during eviction proceedings in housing courts in Albany County. This is deemed tabled at the request of the sponsor, as no local law was introduced this session.
Thank you very much.
Item 3 is amending resolution number 83 for 2022 regarding amendments to the 2022 Sheriff's Office budget. The amounts on the budget amendment were not fully correct previously, and the new amounts prorate the salaries for the remaining weeks in 2022.
And our presenter is
That was me just now. Sorry. I should have been more clear.
Okay, so, all right. And this is we're on number 3.
Yes.
Okay, we're on number 3. All right, there any questions from Ms. Kennedy on this resolution?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Peter,
if there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion to move this.
I'll second.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter and I got a second from Mr. Crackus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Kennedy?
Item 4 is authorizing a correction to the tax roll for 2607 Second Avenue in the town of Colony.
Is this Mr. McGuire?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, Madam Chair. How are you?
Very good, very good.
Thank you for having me. I have a correction, application for correction for an erroneous tax bill for the 2021 school tax and the 2022 property tax bill for 2607 Second Ave in Colony. There was a physical improvement to the property, a structure that was demolished prior to taxable status date. However, the assessed value for that improvement was not removed from the assessment roll, resulting in a tax bill that, they were being taxed for a structure that no longer existed. So that is deemed as a correction under real property tax law, section 550 sub 3 sub a, as an error in essential fact. I'm requesting approval from the Audit and Finance Committee to move this forward and get this incorrect tax bill corrected for the property owner at 2607 Second Ave.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions, members?
Madam Chair, if
Mr. Peter,
there are no questions, I'd request to move this.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Peter and I have a second from Mr. Crackus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
All right,
Mr.
item 5 is authorizing the cancellation and chargeback of an unenforceable delinquent real property tax lien on 25 Delaware Avenue in the city of Albany and chargeback of the amount credited in connection with said lien.
Madam Chair, Mike McGuire again. I can touch on this quick. There was a tax bill from 1995 for a property at 25 Delaware Ave that remained on our system. And because it's gone beyond the 3-year statute of limitations for a normal correction of errors, we're looking to have it, the legislature approve the authorize us to cancel and charge back the unenforceable tax under real property tax law section I lost my section, forgive me, under 406 sub 1, which allows us to, or rather you, the legislature, to approve the cancellation as long as there is another statute that exempts the property. My correction on my part, 558 sub 1 allows you to do that correction. 406 sub 1 is exempting the property because it was held by a municipal corporation, in this case, the city of Albany. It was an old fire department on Delaware Ave near the corner of Lark and Madison.
And it was the old senior center, I believe, after that.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just question
Mr.
for Mike. Mike,
Yes, sir.
1995, long time ago.
Yes.
27 years ago. Are there likely to be more of these out there, or is this an aberration?
There might be a couple that were lingering. What had happened, there was a title search being conducted for this property. It's intended to be used by somebody else. I forget the exact purpose, but when they were conducting a title search, it was found that there was this outstanding tax from 95. And we're trying to clean it up so that way it can be conveyed and put to this new future use. So we're kind of cleaning up this lingering issue from 95.
But do you think there are others like this that go back?
I have not seen any others. It's theoretically possible, but I don't think there would be many, if at all.
So this came a title search?
Yes, the title searcher was researching the property, discovered that there was delinquent tax from 1995. And just to make sure they have clear title, they requested that we take the action to declare it unenforceable and charge it back.
Yeah. Madam Chair?
You're not trying to move it yet, are you?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Peter.
I believe that this is in my district, and
Yeah.
I believe what's happening is that there's currently a development project as this property, I believe, was with the Community Development Agency of the city. And my guess is that I believe it's a mixed use building with a mix of affordable housing and some other things like that. And so to properly get the tax credits and develop it, that's my guess why they then discovered the taxable property, the tax issue. But it had belonged to the city for years upon years, and we've been waiting for it to get developed. I say that all just to give some background to the committee on that, but it's a key project in that area, specifically because it's been vacant and gradually dilapidating for many, many years. And so I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I'd like to ask you this question, Matt, because I thought it was in your district. I wasn't sure. But is that a facade that's up?
It's not a complete facade. It is actually part of the historical building, but my guess is that they are keeping part of the facade up in the development, or at least some part of it. It was actually not just a facade, although I have to check the full building. It was part of the original building is still up.
But is there any back to that building?
There was last time I checked about a couple months ago. So I will now go check because now you have me very worried that I've been looking at a facade for a couple months and not realizing it. But I will. Last time I checked, there is backing to it, but it was not. I will say that it was not structurally sound. The last time I was around, and it was like sort of that red X where they were worried about the stability of it, but it did have a back. It was not an exposed open building.
Okay. And so how long has senior services been out of there?
It's at least 10 years, if not a little more.
Yes.
It's quite a bit. And there's been 3 failed attempts to redevelop it. And then the Community Development Agency had acquired it after the senior center had moved out, and it's been going through development plans. There was a couple that happened pre-COVID. They did not get the necessary tax credits that they needed to make it go further. The entity that's currently going through, I believe, has received the tax credits or a notification that they would, and that's why they are proceeding.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions from the members?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems to me we're sort of breaking the rules a little bit here. We have a 3-year limit on the correction of errors, and I'm sure the reason for that is so we wouldn't have this tax liability going back as much, in this case, almost 30 years. And so I wonder if this is really advisable to kind of go away from our rules here and go back almost 30 years to have this tax liability.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
And I'll look to Majority Council. I believe that unless there is another rule that basically says that entity was always entitled to the exemption, so it's not just a fix. So for example, this is the city of Albany, and so therefore doesn't fall under the 3-year time constraint. So it's not breaking the rules, but correct me if I'm wrong on that, Rebecca.
I believe you're correct, but also state law also provides for this remedy specifically for this type of purpose. So it's completely.
No, I know it's legal, but the question is it advisable given that we have that 3-year standard?
But can I ask you a question, Rebecca? How would this apply if it actually went all the way back? I mean, when you say 3-year limit, I'd like to know the effective date of the 3-year limit of that law.
The 3-year limit is for corrections under section 556 and 554. So those are our standard correction of error processing, right? Either correction to a tax bill or to a refund for a tax bill. Those give us that 3-year statute of limitations, or 3-year window. I shouldn't really say statute of limitations. And typically that's going to be from the levy date of that tax. And that's usually what I come with. This type of declaring a tax as delinquent and unenforceable has happened before. Not since I've been with the county, but I would, there might be one of these a year. Maybe there's a few more in the past, because I was, digging through past files as far as resolutions and for guidance and the support to this. 558, that tax law, it authorizes the county legislature to cancel the tax lien where the tax is rendered permanently unenforceable by operation of the provision of any other statute. So, the interpretation that we had was 558 is saying, if we can't enforce it because another statute prohibits us from doing it, then we can declare it as unenforceable. 406 is saying that because it was owned by a municipal corporation within the corporation limits, in this case, owned by the city of Albany, within the city of Albany, then it would be exempt from tax, exempt from real property taxes and special ad valorem taxes and special assessments. So, 558 gives us the authority as long as there's one statute. 406 is the statute that says it is deemed exempt. And it should have happened, 95, 96, 97, whenever it was, but it didn't.
And Mr. McGuire, to basically the 3-year rule is to stop people from like second guessing when it's a private entity that says that there was a wrong thing to give us that, not when there's a municipal entity that should have never been taxed to begin with. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
I would, in this case, that 558 is just, well, because it's 406 is saying that it's a municipal corporation, that would be applicable. The 3-year period. Honestly, Mr. Peters, I'm not too sure why they put it in there for 3 years or why that limit was set by the legislature when they wrote that statute. So I can't really answer that. I can look into it a little bit and get back to you, but I think that's just, to me, I'm like, that's just the way it is,
Typically, statutes of limitation are just set in place to have a cutoff period when you can no longer look back. However, in this case, this isn't someone trying to grieve taxes from 1995. This is a municipal corporation that was wholly exempt from taxes in 1995. It's
Right.
a different situation than just any random person trying to come back to get, $1,500 or whatever.
Yeah.
Since the city of Albany cannot be taxed by the county of Albany in property taxes, there's no reason the city of Albany would have known they're being taxed since they couldn't have been taxed.
Right.
So they can't grieve something that wasn't allowed to be grieved because it couldn't exist.
Is there any obligation under the law to do this? Or are we obligated to do this, or is this completely discretionary?
I would defer to council, but my understanding is that we're not obligated to do it. But, it should have been exempt initially. So I look at it as, correcting a wrong that occurred in 95. And that we're making that error correct now and making it right.
Okay, this is my question, Mr. Grimm.
Yeah.
I'm confused. And answer me this though, is this for $470.23?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is it the $470.23, or is it the city of Albany? I mean, I'm trying to figure this out because one, it is unenforceable, and I think they've given enough rules here, or that would apply to say, there's nothing wrong with this, and that it should be moved forward. So I don't understand what your complaint is. You're just trying to make a point on the 3-year limit on how it's applied?
No, I just think, are we legally obligated to do this? Because I think going back 27 years and finding a tax mistake, I mean, it doesn't seem fair to the other people who don't have the legal wherewithal to find a mistake from 27 years ago. I think
This is a
that's why we have a 3-year rule.
This is a municipality.
Yes.
Either way, well, okay.
No, actually not either way, sir, because it's actually a statute that says it. So you're ignoring the statute that says when you can't tax something, the 3-year statute doesn't matter. So I don't know if you're trying to say that the city of Albany we should be eligible to tax the city of Albany, and they should have to sue us to make us get rid of a thing we weren't allowed to do. Like, what's your point here?
Well, my point is, for example, how many other municipalities have taken advantage of this long-term?
There's no advantage. We can't charge property taxes to other municipalities.
Who's getting the money? Are you saying Albany is getting the money?
What money?
There is some money.
$470. Tell me.
Albany's
who's
getting the benefit of having this unenforceable tax removed from their tax bill. So it no longer shows up in the chain of title. So it can be sold clear and free. That's what's happening here. Correct, Mr. McGuire?
That's correct. Yes. And, we showed as a, a debt on our books, if you will, that is owed to this from 1995 and it's being wiped away. But in essence, actually, because we're declaring it unenforceable and it's going to be charged back to the city of Albany, ultimately what's going to end up happening is we're going to go to the city of Albany and collect $470.23. We're charging it back to them because we covered this bill back at some point in 95, right? We made the city whole for their tax levy in 95. And this bill was part of that tax levy in 95. So we were still on our books trying to collect it. At this point, because we're declaring it unenforceable and charging it back at the end of the year, when we go to settle with them for next year's tax levy for 2023, this $470.23 will be included in the amount that they would owe the county, in addition to their share of the county budget.
Okay, I'm getting a little bit more confused as we go along. Are you saying that the city of Albany is going to pay us this $420? I mean, it's such a small sum. I'm more concerned about the precedent and the procedure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Now these questions are confusing me. Are you saying that the explanations that have been given by counsel, okay, and Mr. McGuire should not apply, or that they're illegal, or that for some reason or other, is it that you don't agree with them? But I want to hear from counsel. Is this legal, what is in front of us right now?
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I had a question to Mr. McGuire that you cut me off and he didn't get a chance
Yes, I did.
to answer.
Yes, I did. But I really want to know from counsel, is this the law, number one, that we're trying to move forward here? Is there
Yes,
something?
absolutely. It's specifically contemplated by the real property tax law.
Okay, so now with that said, back to Mr. Bergdorf. So is your issue with how Mr. McGuire's explanation, or is your issue with the law that is in place that we have been told which is what we're following here? What is it?
Madam Chair, I have no issue with the $470. I have issue with the process, which I still don't quite understand. Evidently, this happened 27 years ago, and evidently we must have paid the $420. Is that correct?
So,
Mr. McGuire,
with the
so that at the end of the year reconciliation, the city of Albany is going to give us back that $420?
Mr. Bergdorf, I believe I could explain. So typically what would happen is the city will collect taxes on our behalf, right? As part of their share of the county levy. There are charges that are added to their share in addition to just that general levy. So one example of that would be tax refunds that are issued as part of an Article 7 proceeding against an individual property. The county may cover the share of the city or another municipality for that tax that was refunded as part of a decision of an Article 7 proceeding. When that happens, that amount that the county covered on behalf of that municipality is added onto the share onto that municipality's share that's going to be paid to us as part of the levy for the following tax year. So in this case, with that $470.23, we would add it onto the city of Albany's share of the levy. And when they budget next year, that $470 would be included in that amount that would be paid to Albany County. Did that answer your question, sir?
I'm still a bit confused. Are we getting money back, or are we forgiving?
We're declaring it
that we've already collected.
We're declaring non-enforceable. It comes off of our books, and we're charging it back to the city of Albany. So next year, when we collect tax, or when the city, it'll be added to the city levy next year. We're not, the city's not going to cut us a check for $470. It'll be part of the total amount that's going to be paid by the city.
So
Can I-
ultimately, the city is paying this bill.
They're paying us back
even-
for it, yes.
So they are paying the bill. So we're just not getting the 8% over 27 years, right?
May I just maybe do a little bit of an explanation that I think might help, and then I'll let it go, I swear.
Please, please, please.
Okay. So basically, the county basically treated this property like a vacant property owned by a private entity, but it was owned by the city. Therefore, since the county makes municipalities whole, we paid the difference to the city. But since it was owned by the city, that was null and void. So now you have back taxes on a city property that the county reimbursed the city for, thinking it was a vacant piece of property. But since it wasn't, the city therefore shouldn't have gotten reimbursed for it, since it wasn't an actual property. What we're trying to do is give it a clear title based on the fact that it should never been taxed for. And since it wasn't a vacant property, the city should have never been reimbursed for it. So now they're going to basically even it out afterwards. Mr. McGuire, did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I would love
Okay.
to.
That's the
Thank you.
roadmap?
That was clarifying. Oh, once again, and it was, I don't have a problem with the $470. I
Right.
don't have a problem with clearing title. I don't want a piece of property to preclude economic development. I'm
So are
just
you gonna make a
concerned
motion?
about
I was gonna,
the precedent and the process
Right.
and what
Understood.
else might be out there.
I get it. I'm with you guys. I think we're all on the same page now. And I would love to make a motion or second Ms. Lakakis'
Thank you
motion.
very much. Mr. Bergdorf, do you want to give me the second? No? You put it down. Okay, who wants to give me the second?
Madam Chair, I believe I'm giving Ms.
Second.
Lakakis her second.
Okay, Ms. Lakakis?
yes, I move that we clear the lien directly.
And I will gladly second that or let Nathan take it. I really don't.
Okay,
Only
so
way
I got
to
a
do
motion from Ms. Lakakis, I got a second from Mr. Peter and from Mr. Brewski. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
It was circuitous to get there, but we got there, guys.
Thank you.
Let's not do this again next
Sometimes
week,
it's the
okay?
smallest things that create the problem.
Let's wait another 27 years before we do it.
All right, Ms. Kennedy.
All right, item 7 is rescinding the conveyance of real property pursuant to resolution number 401 for 2019 and authorizing the conveyance of property located at 601 23rd Street in the city of Waterville.
Madam Chair, I'm going to handle this one.
Thank you very much.
So this is a two-part request. This is to rescind the authorization to transfer to the land bank and instead authorize a transfer to the land bank's LLC, the ACLB Holdings LLC, due to potential environmental concerns.
Yep. Madam Chair,
Mr. Peter.
it makes perfect sense to me. Obviously, that LLC was set up for a reason. It's why we can take contaminated properties, brownfields, et cetera. Would love to make a motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
I'll second it.
I got a second from Mr. Patrick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank
very
you.
much. All right, before we move forward, this is our last one, back to number 6, is that right?
Actually, Madam Chairwoman, there is an additional item, a number 8, which has been added to the tablets.
Okay,
If I could read it, it's amending resolution number 86 for 2022 regarding authorization to convey real property located at 467 Orange Street in the city of Albany. And I can speak to this briefly if I could.
please.
This would just correct a clerical error in the original resolution. The tax map numbers were not correct throughout. So this would just make sure that it was the same throughout.
Got it.
Okay, very.
Madam Chair, if there's no questions, I'd make a motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
Second.
Did I get a second? Was that you, Mr. Bergdorf?
Yes.
I got a second from Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Before we move to the last item, there is just one thing that why I still have Mr. Riley's attention here. And there was something I think that Mr. Peter wanted to speak to.
No, we're all set, Madam Chair. Mr. Riley and I will talk offline. We're fine.
Very good. All right, let's move on. Ms.
All right,
Kennedy?
item 6 is authorizing an agreement with CMA Capital Market Advisors LLC regarding America Rescue Plan Act advisory services and amending the 2022 Albany County budget.
Thank you very much. Mr. Riley?
Madam Chairwoman, yes, I'm going to handle this one as well. So as part of the opening meetings that the County Executive's Office, the Legislature, and the Comptroller have been hosting in terms of setting up the committees to determine how we are going to disperse this year's American Rescue Plan Act funds, a decision was made by the group as a whole to put out an RFP to solicit advisory services for these funds, specifically on public engagement, project prioritization and determination of eligibility, plan development, and project management and compliance support. This is for help to help us through the process, to make sure we check all the boxes, as well as to make sure that we're not leaving anything on the table with potentially leveraging other state or federal funds to get the best bang for our buck, for lack of a better way to phrase that. Make sure we're in full compliance with all of our reporting, things along those lines. The committee structure that we have laid out will be the ones making all the decisions for the projects, and then any contract authorization will come back to either this body or the contract administration board, depending on the size of the projects. As I said, we got 3 responses to the RFP. Myself, a representative from the county exec's office, a representative from the comptroller's office, as well as a representative from the majority office, graded all of the RFPs, first reviewed the RFPs, had interviews with each of the respondents, and then each independently graded. As you can see by the scoring sheets, the scores were close. All 3 respondents are definitely capable of doing this and have contracted other municipalities where they will be doing this for them. That said, the tipping point, which seems like for all of us, because we all chose the same winner, was for CMA Capital Market Advisors. Their price that they're coming in with just blew the other 2 out of the water. It's $180,000 over a 24-month period. Some of the others were as high as like 6 and change.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Mr. Peter?
Well, because we got a lot of questions on this, Dave. Like, this makes perfect sense to me, knowing, we're talking 20 some odd $1 million, give or take, what we have to do in the reserve funds, to have existing staff without potential expertise in these matters have to be bogged down on this. And we got such a competitive bid. I think that's great. And simply because we get questions on this, we'll be notified when there's application processes, what the process is and stuff like that. Like, this is literally just to get staff in place as we're getting prep for this. And that this was agreed to by, I believe there's like an executive committee doing this, which includes the minority and the majority. And so everyone's sort of been informed on that. I just want to check that. I've been asked. I think this is great. I was happy to see that everyone was sort of on the same page, and that both the minority and majority knew what was going on. So, I'm great with this. I just want to confirm that.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Quick question for Dave, Madam Chair, if it's possible. Dave, does this include both technical advice during the process and then helping with the compliance reporting to the federal government? Is it both components?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other major tasks that they will be assigned?
Yes, they will also handle whatever level of public engagement we want. If we want to do any outreach to the public for, if certain buckets of money are going to be directed to certain things, if there's going to be public input into that or public comment on that or requests, they will handle that however we want them to handle it, as well as kind of a long-range timeline planning for us. So we can make sure that we have all our ducks in a row, everything is expended on a proper timeline, and everything is in compliance.
Okay. And you say they have other municipalities in New York State who are there, they are providing this service for?
Yes, sir. One of the better examples that I can give off the top of my head is the city of Poughkeepsie has a website set up that these guys developed they're going to do a similar one for us as well.
Okay.
They are advising Rochester, New Rochelle, Long Beach, and Glen Cove.
Great.
And Wanda,
Yes, is that you, Ms. Lakakis?
it is. I was just wondering about the reporting mechanism. I think the first time I read it, what kind of reporting is going to be to us, to just the executive committee, to the public, to how do you figure that's going to be going?
So the reporting that was referenced, somebody's got some pretty bad feedback there. The reporting that was referenced in the RFP is specifically the reporting to the US Treasury. I actually filed the quarterly report due this morning. That's due, I guess, by this weekend. As we start to ramp up the projects, though, those reports will become far more detailed. The report today was basically an affirmation of the previous quarter's report saying, yes, we haven't changed anything from then, which was the revenue replacement that you guys were all aware of from the first year's outlay.
Tranche, yeah.
Do I have? Yes, Mr. Peter.
If there are no further questions, I'd like to make a motion on this.
I have a question. Matt Miller has one too.
Oh, fair enough.
Why can't I see? I'm so sorry, gentlemen. I don't understand why. Maybe it's the way I have my screen set up. So, Ms. Kennedy, who's next?
I believe Mr. Miller had his hand up first.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm marking you in a committee because I'm not, so.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Whatever.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you, Matt and Madam Chair. If I got there, basically this is for a consultant contract, 180,000 for a consultant. Is that what our voting is on tonight? Not on the money, of course.
Correct. This is 180,000 over 24 months.
Okay, this is my question, Dave. We're getting 29.6 million. That's our allotment for 2022 from the federal plan. We got the same number in 2021, but we didn't hire a consultant to spend that money. So why would we hire $180,000 consultant to spend the money, which it looks like what this is about? And we didn't do that in 2021.
Mm-hmm. So Mr. Grimm, the major difference here is last year, we earmarked basically the full allocation outside of $175,000 for a broadband study. The rest of the allocation all went towards revenue losses. There was no standing up of projects, grading of projects, public meetings required to be set up. And as I just said, the reporting, it literally lists those two items. Now that we're going to be looking at actually going out and spending this tranche of money because we've been made whole on our revenue losses with the first tranche, the level of complexity it's probably 100-fold more difficult.
So you're committed to spending this money. Of course, we spent it per se last year, but it was on revenue losses. So there's no more revenue losses that we can spend this money on in 2022?
Trust me, I looked.
Okay. How about the idea of adding to the fund balance?
We cannot do that directly. That is literally against the direct rules issued by the Treasury.
Okay. All right. So you just need some help with this expenditure.
It's basically it's a compliance help. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be spent this year. It can be spent up to 2026. Is that correct?
It has to be obligated by, I believe, by 2025 and spent by 26.
Okay. Well, it's not that often we ask for help to spend money. Elected officials are pretty much like to do that on their own, but I understand where you're coming from. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I found my answer. Actually, I appreciate it. It was a math question. I saw the $60,000 budget amendment. I thought that was for the year. So the math wasn't adding up. I see now there's a little note that it's for 8 months. So I got it now.
That's the pro rata piece for this year.
I didn't catch that part. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Mr. Peter?
Unless I'm also missing people, and I apologize, Mark and Matt, on this one. But I would like to make a motion because I just checked my participants. I didn't see anyone else raising their hands, but I'd like to make a motion.
Very good.
Second.
Yes, Mr. Clay, did I see your hand up?
Well, I just second the motion, that's all.
Oh, okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
All right, Ms.
Thanks,
Kennedy,
Dave.
is that the extent of our agenda for today?
Yes, there are no further items.
Okay, I want to thank Mr. Riley and all the other county executive staff for taking part in tonight's Audit and Finance Committee meeting and all of our members. And I bid you good night. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I got a motion and I got a second.
Second.
All right, good. Matt, I'm gonna give you a call when we get off the phone, off the line, okay?
Sounds good, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
We have to
Have a good
vote.
night.
I gotta vote. Aye,
All those in
aye,
favor?
Aye.
Oh,
aye.
Aye.